So as we start this class, it's called Unlocking Instagram. And if you look around, listen to the variety of what we talked about. I mean, we have just about everything here. Singers, we have nonprofits, we have lavender, a great variety. When I first started with Instagram, I'm Janet Romanowski. When I started, I have a real estate business. I work here for David Lang. And my niece, Christy, kept saying to me, well, you have to do Instagram. You have to do Instagram. And I said, Christy, no one buys a house off Instagram. And so I really fought with her for a couple years. And then as COVID started, there's a woman by the name of Sage Levine. I don't know if any of the women in this room have taken. She does Rocking Women, I forget what it is, Women Rocking Business. It's basically women leadership entrepreneurship. And she had to, in COVID, pivot onto doing something virtually. And during that, what I really got listening to people, so many people kept saying, I use Instagram, I'm successful with it. And it was sort of one of those callings where I said, Janet, you've got to quit being a doubter, and it's probably worth trying. So when COVID hit, I had lots of time to, get on the internet and learn things, and that's exactly what I did. So I have been doing this about 5 years. I'm not going to claim that I am an expert. I just have one way of doing it. I have a certain way of doing it. So when you're listening, take in some of what I'm saying, but some of it you may just go, yeah, but I don't do it that way. And that's fine. There's no right way to do Instagram. But what I want to do is give you a lot of different ideas so you can have some of those aha moments where you say, I got it. Now I know what tagging is. Collaboration, my favorite thing is collaboration. And a lot of people kind of like, well, I think I collaborate. I don't know what it is. I work with other people, and that's, kind of confusing. So what we're going to jump into is, first of all, why I think Instagram is important. It's free and it's effective. And what I mean by free, you are going to need to spend some time. But I remember meeting with someone and she was telling me, I've spent 2 hours on this video. And it's like, okay, then let's throw it away. Let's start over, and just doing it with some really easy techniques. She had it done in about 10 minutes. You need to get to the point with Instagram where it's not a total frustration. I want you to be at the point where you actually like it. Like you're doing it and you like it. It's fun and you're getting results. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about my accounts. And I mentioned earlier that I got started with the real estate account. And so what I found was I would go on and I'd look at other people's Instagram account, and if all you're doing as a real estate agent is just putting up pictures of houses, after someone buys a house, they may not have as much motivation to be going back because they already got their house. So what I started looking at is the focus of mine became, how do I show people what Santa Cruz is? Because they move here to buy a house because they love Santa Cruz. After they buy their house, they can still follow me and know my favorite beaches or where we go for coffee or something. So one of the things with your account is, I'd like to encourage you to kind of think about where your focus is. How you can take what you're doing now and expand it a little bit, or take some of the things you're doing really well and do those more often and do them better. So my second account was a vacation rental business I have up in Murphy's. Kind of the same thing. I can put up pictures that show the kitchen and the front patio and that. But when I started that account was also right during COVID. And what I realized was the businesses in Murphy's, they needed for people to hear we're open, or what hours were they open. So I didn't have a lot to do with doing stuff with my own rentals. What I did is start focusing on, how can I promote the businesses? How can I promote the wine tasting, the caves or whatever, so that people will come to Murphy's. But what was very interesting about it that I also learned was, a lot of those business owners were coming to me after a while. They knew who Murphy's Vacation Homes were. And they would tell me, people come here all the time for like a day trip, and then they say, I want to come back, where can I stay? What was really cool about it, a lot of those business owners started referring a lot of business to us. So I started realizing that was going to be a little bit of the focus there, is not just, where they could go to be a tourist, but also the businesses, because they were going to be a big source of following for us. The other is, I have a friend that's up in Murphy's that had a winery. Now, I only go up there about once or twice a month, so it's not like I had a lot of opportunity where I could be constantly going up there and getting photos and that. So I would just go to the winery, I would take a bunch of photos, but what was very interesting as I started posting, more and more people, I'd walk into the winery and I would say, you know, I'm here to take some photos to promote them for Instagram. And people would say to me, well, I was wondering when you would ask. Like, they really wanted to be on Instagram. So we kind of shifted from what we were doing as always wanting to talk about like the Barbera and what it pairs with. And now what we were doing is really looking at building a lot more community and taking pictures of these people because they love to share that they were helping, you know, Valdivino Winery with promoting their business. Now the fourth one was a little bit harder, and that is Think Local First. When I came on to do the Instagram for Think Local First, I'm a volunteer, I'm not a paid person. I came on with just the skills I had with those other three things, and then trying to figure out, okay, how do I do that for Think Local First? And so what I did, which I'm going to encourage others to do if you're not quite sure, if you're kind of looking for some changes, I went out and searched a lot of big accounts to see who was doing something like Think Local First. And I actually found one of those that's on the other side of this, it's way far away from us, other side of the country, but they did really good posts. So I started kind of copying a little bit about what they were doing, knowing that they're not going to be watching me, but I'm going to be watching them. And that gave me some really good ideas. And what was interesting about Think Local First that's maybe different from any of the others, this was an account, it's not so much our business that we promote. What we do is like Charlie Hong Kong. It's like, you know, the animal shelter. So the best thing that I can do would be to really try to get followers and to be supporting people so that when you're sending me a post to share, that's what I'm doing. It's almost like we're just a platform, a kind of a pass-through platform, so that when you do something and you want us to share it, that's what we share. If you go in and look at our site and you look at our posts, I would say only 10% of what you see on there is even me posting. It's everyone else posting. But I've taught people how we do that collaboration so that we can really have a lot of content, okay? So all that in mind, I know it works. I know when I started with Think Local First, we had about 3,300 followers, and that was a little over a year and a half ago. We are at about 6,600 right now, so we've doubled the number of followers. Our growth rate is about 5%, but that's also because, you know, in this town, we have, you know, 20,000 small businesses and nonprofits to choose from. So we have a lot of people that we could bring in as followers. What they have done is they've created more followers, which then support your businesses better because we have more people looking at you, and it's also increased our membership. We actually increased our membership about that same, you know, 5% a month type rate. I mean, it was really, you know, a good progression, okay? Let's see what I wanted to jump to. Oh, posting doesn't have to be expensive. It can be something, you know, you're just doing in your shop. You're a one-horse operation. You don't have to go out and get someone else to do it for you. I want to use Tatiana as an example, and I warned her that I was going to do that. So Tatiana has a business called Euphoria. It's in downtown Capitola. It's a clothing business. And 3 years ago, when Capitola got devastated with bad news, we had flood damage and everything, the businesses in Capitola needed to be supported. And I found at that point, I really wasn't going in doing a lot of videos. Now I have, and it's Capitola Village that kind of brought me on to that. But I went in and talked to Tatiana, and I said, Tatiana, I think it'd be really great. Let's do something for you to promote what you have. And she said, like many of you, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to do a video. I said, just trust me, we're going to do this. And it's kind of funny because she totally apologizes on the first one, like this is the first one I'm done. But she is a true natural on the camera. And I want to ask you guys, with Tatiana, and you've probably seen it before, hi guys. How do you do it? Come on.
Yeah. Hi guys. The voice is very high.
The voice is very high. She's a one-person operation. She goes into her store, she puts the camera in some kind of a tripod, she stands in front of it and says, I have this sweater, I have this shirt. And it was interesting when she first started doing it, is she would tell me like, well, she put the black shirt out in the morning saying, I have this. And people would come in during the day saying, where's the black shirt? Where's the black shirt? You guys just did one, I think it was either you or Just Thrifting, where they said people keep coming in and asking for that item. So now they have an Instagram. Now they have an Instagram rack so that people can find what they're talking about. So it is successful, but do what you enjoy. She now really gets into it because she likes to talk about, oh, look at, my boots, they don't look good, I'm traveling, whatever. It's not overly polished. How long does it take you to do a video?
2 minutes, 3 minutes.
And put it out there. So I would encourage you guys, maybe don't overthink what you're doing. If you need help with videos, I can help you. Someone else can help you with that. And I mean by videos like Reels and that. But don't overthink what you're doing. Too many times that's what happens. And sometimes the ones that get the biggest response are the ones that you didn't even think was a good post. You just kind of put it out there and all of a sudden you get a lot of people looking at it. Another one I would share with you, and he's not here today, but Anthony has the Mediterranean bar in Aptos, Seascape area. And when I met with Anthony, he said, Janet, I just don't want to do a lot of that stuff. I said, that's okay. Do you have an account that you follow that you like? He goes, oh, there's this account in LA. This guy does so much posting. He's got so many people watching. I said, great, let's take a look at it. We pulled up the phone. We looked at the account. Literally everything on this guy's account is simply downloading a video from someone else's account. He wasn't putting out much of his own. And you can do that. If a person allows you to download, and you could just go in when you look at a video, you could do a search. He'll do one that's like, I don't know, skateboard humor or something. You can just type in skateboard humor, look at the hashtags, and find a video, click on it, and down at the bottom it may say download, meaning you can download it. So that's what his account became. You'll see very few of these like really technical posts from him, but he goes in, if he's got Dirty Harry coming on TV on Monday for their movies or whatever, he'll get a clip from Dirty Harry. He'll do something for the Super Bowl. So it can be as simple as that. You don't even have to be creating a lot of your own stuff, okay? On a different note, and let's just grab someone. Andre's not here, so it's safe that we could talk about him. Andre from Shoppers Corner, okay? When I say Shoppers Corner, what do you guys think about? What's Shoppers Corner? Local, community. They've been there forever. The butchers, all of that. They've been there forever. When I sat down originally and talked to Andre, he kind of said, I have all these followers, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know how many of you have inherited accounts where someone else set it up and you don't know what you're doing. And it was kind of one of those where we really looked at it like, Andre, what is it about your community? What is it about community? I know I tell people, if I need to go run into someone, like a familiar face, I go to Shoppers Corner because I know someone will be there. What was interesting is he started looking at some different things, and one is he's got something now called a shopper spotlight. So he'll grab someone like Peter and Shauna from Maverick Mailing. He'll take a picture of them. It's just a black and white photo. It's not anything super special, but it will say Shopper Spotlight. And then it will talk about Peter and Shauna. And he'll actually ask Peter and Shauna, like, Shauna, when do you remember starting to shop here? And he'll put that down in the comments. He gets great feedback on that stuff. You could start asking your customers, when you're there in the store, do you mind if I take a photo of you? You guys are good. You always get people that are adopting dogs and that. People love to see themselves. So don't worry, it doesn't always have to be you. It can be a lot of other people that you put in these videos. I'm going to jump to something a little different, which is our profile. In other words, our getting searched. If you take a look up here, the profile, this is what I'm talking about. It's our name, it's our username, it's our links, all of this, okay? What I'm going to suggest is we should all probably look at our profile and see what you're missing, because your profile is how you get searched, okay? I'd first say, like on username, is your username clear? Username would be all the way up the top. Think local, first, Santa Cruz. I hate to try to push me out of there. Maybe I can. I could push me out of there. Okay, if it dies, it dies. So the username is up on the top. Think local, first, Santa Cruz. When I took over the account, it was Think Local First SC. Doesn't say Santa Cruz, could be South Carolina, we don't know. I want to make sure my username clearly spells out who we are. Because if you think about it, your username is one of those, like, you know, when you go to like someone or make a comment, that's the free advertising, where it says, oh, that's made by Think Local First Santa Cruz or whatever. So really look at your username and see, does it say who you are? The other thing I would tell you, and let me just tag real quickly over to my other account, my Janet Romanowski account. So Janet Romanowski, I've been doing real estate for 45 years, and I always think, well, everyone knows my name, but if you're in Stockton, you don't know Janet Romanowski. So I originally just had Janet Romanowski. What I did is I really looked at that and said, wait a second, you know, someone in Stockton doesn't know me. So I went to Janet_Romanowski_realtor. Now, if I like or comment on something, realtor, like you know what I do, okay? So that's the username, and I think everyone should look at that to really see what your username is. By the way, if you change it, you don't lose all those posts you've done, but do remember if you change it that you're going to need to go back in like on your website and change the link. But you can go back in. I could change it today to Janet Romanowski Real Estate or something else. And then, you know, again, you just have to remember to change it on your emails or your website.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, I'm with the Research Center for Nonviolence, and right now our username is rcnv.sc.
I was going to point you out. Absolutely. I had to keep figuring out who you guys were because I would see a post and go, which one is that? And that's one, Resource Center Nonviolence, or whatever it is. And if you're doing something that long, think about putting the underscores between it, okay? So again, look at your username. The other thing we're gonna look at is your name. So the name is, it's Janet Romanowski up on top. The name is Santa Cruz Real Estate Agent, okay? Now, why would I do that? Originally on Instagram, if you put Janet Romanowski here, you always put Janet Romanowski as the other one, the username and the name. But over time, what we've learned is this is your SEO, your search engine optimization. So I want everyone to take their phone, and I told you we're going to stay off our phones. How many restaurants do you think we have in Capitola? Just 50, 70? I don't know. Take a look and search Capitola Restaurant and tell me what you find. 2 of them. Wait, we have 60 or 70 restaurants? 2. Geisha and who else? Miyoko. So look at that. That's where you're missing your SEO optimization. And this is where, and we're going to go back and use my Janet Romanowski, okay? So right now, if someone comes from Stockton and they're looking for an agent in Santa Cruz, they could look up Santa Cruz Real Estate Agent, okay? My SEO optimization says Janet Romanowski, also has the word realtor. It also has Santa Cruz, because I want to make sure there's some context of where I am. And then it says real estate agent. Notice how now it's like if someone searches Santa Cruz Real Estate, Santa Cruz Realtor, just real estate agent, whatever, I've got a tremendous amount of SEO optimization. When I met with Andre and we talked about Shoppers Corner, he had Shoppers Corner, Shoppers Corner. He changed that to Shoppers Corner Santa Cruz. And then you mentioned earlier something about the butchers. If you look at his name, he will have grocery, produce, wine, cheese, butcher. That way, when someone goes, they're in town and they say, hey, I'm looking for a butcher, I'm looking for produce, he could put the word organic in if he wanted it. These are your SEO search engine optimizations. So when you have time, go back in and think about what your keywords are so that people can find you a little bit easier. Okay? Let's see. Bio is that next part. And, you know, you've got up to 150 characters. Use them all. You know, use as many as you can. And if you don't know what to put, again, go and look at some other big accounts and look at what they're putting. Get some great ideas on that. Okay? Next one is links. And links is this right here. So it's janetromanowski.com. So make sure that's in there. I'm going to toggle back for a moment to Think Local First. So sometimes you see where people put Janet Romanowski, then they'll put like 2 other ones and it'll say this one plus 2. I'm going to suggest if you want to put Linktree instead. Linktree is the one where you could put other stuff, you know, like more than, you're only allowed, I think, 4 or 5 to do it that way. But if you do it with Linktree, as an example, think local first. So much local going on. You know, when I do that post and it says, we've got events, go to our bio, this is what I'm referring to. Become a member, subscribe to our newsletter, Think Local First broadcasts. Very easy. This is the free version. You can do it for free. You can do it as an app. It's easy enough to set up. So think about doing a Linktree if you have more than just like one thing that you go to. But I would also tell you, so I can't call you June. June. So for example, with June, let's say she does have Linktree and here's her website, but let's say she has new releases. Let's say she has merch that you can buy, whatever. It makes it super easy so people don't have to click on those ones where they say this one plus 3. Another important one, let's look at category. And I'm going to, on this one, you're not going to see a category, but on your page, you will typically have a category like restaurant, like musician, whatever. If you go in to category, they have a preset list that maybe has 20 categories, and sometimes you feel like you have to take those. Try typing in something else. Okay, you could try typing in musician, you could try typing in nonprofit, whatever. The reason you don't see anything here under my category, because it would usually be right up in here, is because, have you ever been where, some of you that may know how to collaborate, when you try to collaborate and you pull up someone's account and it's ghosted gray, that is because there's an issue with music and copywriting and that. If you ever have that happen, change it over to Entrepreneur, which we keep this at Entrepreneur, and I'll show you, we hide it, but I'll show you what that is. If you change it to Entrepreneur, you can use a heck of a lot more music. And if the person on the other end, like if you're trying to, with June, you guys want to do something and hers is ghosted, just say, hey, June, temporarily take your category from being musician and change it to Entrepreneur. She collaborates with you. She changes it back to musician. Okay? Let me just show you. Okay, so we got that part of it. By the way, everything that you're going to do here is coming from Edit Profile. So when you change anything in here, you're going to do it through Edit Profile. And let me just show you for a minute. I'm clicking Edit Profile. So here was the name again. Username is the one at the very top. This is your SEO. Your bio. I always put a hashtag, even though hashtags aren't used as much anymore, but it was one of those, if people are going to tag us, I want them to tag there, not Think Local or Think Local SC or whatever, telling people where to do that. Links is the Linktree. Banners, I don't know, I don't use them. Skipping down here to public and business and all that. Our page is Think Local First. The category is Entrepreneur. Contact options. I want to make sure all of you look at your contact options. Sometimes people pull those up and go, I don't use that. That's not my email. Check that because you need to look and make sure your email is correct, your phone number is correct. That way, it's not someone else's info that it's going to. Okay? And then the last thing, profile display. So what I want to show you is I'm going to click on profile display. And there are 2 choices there. It says display category label, display contact info. If any of you have contact info, but it's not showing up, check to make sure you probably somehow got this in the no position instead of the yes position. Okay? So let's go back out for a moment. I know I'm going through quickly. Oh, we're doing so well. We're only halfway there. Yeah, who is that?
This is Logan Newkirk. I am the marketing coordinator for Be Natural Music.
Oh, go ahead, Logan, yes.
So, is it only the entrepreneur category that allows you to have that extra access, or are there other categories?
You know, that is a great question. I'm not the expert, but everyone I've talked to about when I have that problem has said, well, just change it to entrepreneur. So I don't know. There might be others that you guys know about, but that's what was explained to me.
Okay, beautiful.
Okay? All right. Next. So again, contact options. Make sure you have the right info. Where it says profile display, like I don't want to display that it says entrepreneur, but if you did want to display musician. And when you go in there, like let's say you're associated, you're a winery. There's wine shops. Make sure you try to tie it down. They give you about 1,000 custom things that you could use. You can't customize it beyond what their list is, but you've got lots of choices besides the 20 or so that you see, come up when you originally go in and you look at, what you want to put for it. This is the category, okay? What to post? Let's skip to that. You can post products, what you have for sale. You can post Yelp reviews. I was commenting, Capitola Home Care has recently, after we talked about it, I said, they work with people, they work with individuals, a very trusting relationship, taking care of your family members. And we talked about how important it would be to have testimonials. You want to hear that someone else is saying, I love these people, I so trust them with my mother, whatever it is. Think about testimonials, and you can get those, your Yelp reviews. We have, Zillow reviews for real estate, lots of places you could get those. But I think testimonials are a big thing because you can say how great you are, but I love when someone else says how great it is, okay? Day-to-day humor. Tatiana, well, the next time you get 30 boxes of inventory coming in, show people what inventory looks like. Oh my God, we got all these new things. You could be standing behind a row of boxes, throwing things out, and all you hear is the voice, I don't know. Have fun with it. Have fun with what you're doing, because the purpose here is, if I make this too much of a task, you're probably not going to do it. It's like the garbage. You don't take it out till it stinks. And with Instagram, it's kind of the same. I'm not going to do it until I have to. I want it to be where you really, you see something and you go, oh, this is perfect. This is the post. And by the way, don't get too hung up on, well, I was told you have to post in the morning or the afternoon or the evening. I will tell you, for real estate, my real estate account, it's the morning because everyone's up having their coffee. For the winery, they don't get up in the morning. They've been drinking the night before. They look at things 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. My vacation rental account, they looked at things like, hey, we're getting ready. We're thinking about, it's Friday, and we're thinking about the weekend. So don't get hung up on when you're supposed to post. That was real important to begin with, but I think people got too into it, where they feel somehow restricted by that. If you've got a pattern and it's working for you, that's great. You may also want to keep going in and asking yourself, what kind of posts are getting people looking? What happens at Shopper's Corner? He loves to put the butchers in there because everyone knows the butchers. He loves to put the woman that's putting the produce in. So he does employees. Some of you may not do employees. I think it's really great to do employees. It shows who works there, who people are going to be meeting. Let's see. Educate. If there's something you can do. If it's, let's see what I could say. Let's say it's Tatiana, and it's how to take care of a cashmere sweater. I don't know. I've ruined my share of sweaters. Maybe she's doing something that's some kind of a tip or education. She's doing the sweater, but she can always say, and by the way, if you guys are confused on how to take care of it, okay? You could do that kind of stuff. Also, I would tell you, do what you're passionate about. There's a real estate agent in our office here, and she cornered me the other day and said, Janet, I don't know what to do on Instagram. I want to do it, but I don't know what to do. As we started talking, I never realized that Christine was a triathlete. And I said, do you ever do anything about being a triathlete? And she said, no, she's got hundreds of pictures, right? Yeah, she's got hundreds of pictures. So what's interesting is that with Christina, she put out one little picture of being a triathlete. It's a still photo. It's a bunch of people on bikes. She called me back and she said, Janet, I got all these new followers. So sometimes it's the simplest of things that you're missing, but really keep going back saying, what are you passionate about? I need to figure out, I think that stopped sharing. Well, people will read it up here if they're coming in on Zoom. I think it stopped sharing on here. What else? Let's see. Oh, what you can post. If people know, like a still photo, put up a still photo. But I would also share with you, it used to be with still photos, like they would have you do carousels, like click, select, and take 9 photos. And we used to do that, and it was real great because you could put up 9 photos and, you know, slide your finger. The problem is a lot of people these days, they're in places like they're on their Peloton, they're in a meeting. They don't want to be using their finger to swipe. So if you're tempted to go back and do a carousel like we used to do more of, think about doing it as a reel. In other words, take your 9 still photos, put them up there as a reel. You have a chance to shorten them because it's going to want to make them 5 seconds. Shorten them to whatever, 1.5 to 2 seconds a piece. You can put music on top of them, whatever you want. And now when you put it out there, people don't have to manually do this. It's just there. It's just happening for you. Okay? Reels, we won't talk too much about that. I'm a huge fan of the videos, the reels. I think they get more engagement. If you're struggling with it, stay around a few minutes afterwards and we could talk about that. Everything that you see that I'm doing is off of my phone because that's where things happen, except I use one program, but it's a free program. It's called InShot, I-N-S-H-O-T. I like the program. It's sort of what CapCut was before that I never could quite get right. InShot's very easy to use. So think about that if you're struggling with videos and you want to make them more interesting. Those are the videos where it will be someone like, you know, Nancy, and I'm filming her to start talking, but then I'm putting those pictures of the jumping dogs and the other things. She's still talking, but I don't want to leave her on the screen for a minute. I'd rather have like 55 seconds of dogs and licking animals and all of that good stuff. The other thing is, when you do a post, how many of you do stories of posts that you do? Okay. For those of you that aren't doing them, I want to suggest, I always say, why not? If you're doing a post, in other words, if I'm putting something here, this is a post, it's going to stay here forever. The story will stay here for 24 hours. But there are some people that only want to look at posts, others that only want to look at stories. So when you do a post, I'm going to suggest everything that I do gets turned into a story. And all you have to do for that is, you know, you pull up, let's say I was going to do Mobo. All I'm doing is you click right here on the paper airplane, and it pulls up the next thing, and you just look down on the left where it says add story, and that's how you're going to do it. The other thing I want to show you guys, and let me just click on this. I think Mobo's did it. Okay. If you're gonna do a story, one thing to think about is, like when I do stories, I want other people to share those. So it's something about Musical Me. I do it as a story. I'm hoping that Lively Kids or someone else will reshare it. You want to make their life easy, and what I mean by that is, the story will take the first 2 lines of your text. If you do, and I'll just show you. So in other words, let's say we're going to turn this into a story. We're going to do add story. If I touch on the photo itself, it brings this in. If I untouch it, it doesn't. So you may want to look at it when you're doing that, like, let's say what I really want to put here is Valentine's Day or something, or have music or hearts or whatever. By the way, when you add music, you know how your stories, they kind of come up, and if it's a still photo, it's there and then it's gone? When you add music, it stretches it out. It plays longer. So think about your stories is if you can get some music in there, and easy enough to do, all we'd be doing, you know, if you're sharing this as a story is, you know, go in and just pick something. Pick the gifts, the hearts, whatever. Put the link. You know, those kind of things can be very valuable. And I say it's kind of like making it self-contained. And what I mean by that, and let me just go back for a moment, discard. Let's go back to my page. So let's say it's something like, no, you know, that's going to take a bit. So again, just try to get the first 2 most important lines condensed. You'll see when you start looking at posts, look at how you'll see the first 2 lines and then they actually hit the return and then you're down below with the rest of it. That's kind of what they're trying to do, what I would be doing, and why I think that's effective. Okay? If you're doing something that's a story and it's with a reel, you don't get the choice of the content down below. So what I would suggest is if you're doing something like a reel and you're putting it up there as a story, maybe you do take and you put in something like the link, or, you know, this is what whatever, what First Friday looks like or something. Because when they look at it, they're not going to necessarily know what you're trying to convey. You ever look at that on a story and you're looking at it like, I have no idea what this person was doing. That's where it's really helpful that you got to be telling people a little bit about that. Okay? Story, turn every post into a story. Oh, also stories are what you need if you want highlights. We're not going to go into much about highlights. This is highlights. You see those beautiful little circles? And what I always describe them as, if someone looks at something that Think Local First does, and then they're saying, what else do they post? Instead of making them scroll, 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 in my opinion, what I use these for is, those are little highlights. So someone could click on one of those and all of a sudden see the various stories. Now, don't have 60 stories in that highlight, because unfortunately what happens, they put the oldest story at the front and the newest at the back. So when you start doing highlights, go through every so often and clean out some of the things that are in there so that you're not putting a menu from 2 years ago that's still in there. Because unfortunately, when you have these other highlights going on, the menu's going to come up before the rest of them. I usually say maybe on the highlights, 10, 12, 15 of them, you know, it's dogs, it's volunteers, it's events, it's, you know, whatever you want it to be. And then within that, think about it as a bucket. You now put a bunch of stories into it, and you might have 10 stories, 15 stories, whatever. You can't get a highlight unless you've done a story. So keep that in mind too. That helps you to, you know, get a little bit, you know, get your highlights, getting some good stuff in there. Okay, tagging and collaborating. This is one of my favorites. So when we're talking about tagging, I'm not talking about the hashtag. What I'm talking about is the A, like I'm tagging Second Harvest Food. I'm tagging, you know, whatever it is, Musical Me. So the tagging is with the A. I always say, think about tagging as a tap on the shoulder. It's like if I do, let's say that I'm doing, let's say it's animals. Let's say I'm doing a post and it's going to be something about a dog, but it's not, you know, the animal shelter. I could go in and I'm thinking to myself, Yappy Hour, I'm thinking, tag the animal shelter, because this is such a cute picture about a dog. It's not the animal shelter, but I'm encouraging her, like, Nancy, I want to make sure you see it so that if you'd like to reshare this as a story. And if you think about it, all those people, remember when we did your one for the noodle party, Carolyn? And so we went and I said, who comes to the noodle party? Kids. So we started tagging all these accounts that were kids. It had nothing to do with the noodle party, but if kids come to this thing, I want to make sure we did we looked up daycares, we did, you know, all of these things and put in like 20 tags. All it is tapping someone on the shoulder. People say, do people get mad if you do that? If you did it on every post and it had nothing to do with them, I would be a little frustrated. But we're talking about doing it when it really applies to them. You're allowed to tag up to 20 on each post.
I think that's changed to 5.
No, that's hashtags. That's hashtags. I know that.
It's 5 collaborators, maybe?
Yeah, 5 collaborators too. Yep, you got it. So what we're talking about, the hashtags, which I don't use them as much, but I know people still use them. And that might be hashtag Think Local First, hashtag Santa Cruz, hashtag Santa Cruz, California. You're allowed 5 of those. If you have those preset lists, they will take the other 25 that you had in there, because we used to be allowed 30, and they will not have a hashtag in front of them, so you just have this list of words that is kind of silly. So that's the hashtags. This is the tagging where it's actually like when you go, and let's just say, I'm just going to grab something. Let's say that I was going to do a post and it's on the Cuba. By the way, if you guys haven't, if you love to travel, 2 years ago, and I know Andrea's probably watching in, they have Lumeria travel workshops, and they took us to Cuba, and it's 3 photographers and 9 people. It was the most amazing experience, the most amazing travel I've ever been on. And now, I mean, it would be hard to get into Cuba, but if you like to travel, definitely follow her account. And something I'm going to share that's really interesting was, so Andrea and I have been working for the last 18 hours, whatever, to get her thing to launch. And it's Lumeria Photo Workshops. What's interesting is she launched it at 1 o'clock this morning. and she started putting up all these photos. But I showed her, because of that SEO optimization, she has taken hers. You know, I'm going to jump. Let me do this first. Hold on. What was I going to show you on? Oh, I know. We're just going to do this. We're going to act like I'm going to do a post on that. When you're doing this, if you go down here to tag people, you have two choices. Add a tag, that's the A. That means it's going to go to Tatiana's account and she can reshare it as a story. But what about if it's one of Tatiana's suppliers and you're doing a thing about the dress that they sell? Why not invite them collaboration? Because when you invite collaboration, not only will it be on Tatiana's page, but if that person accepts collaboration from whatever the dressmaker is, now you have it on both the pages, okay? How does that work? I'm going to give you an example of something. Let's say that Nico with Surf City Line Dance is going to do an event down at Abbott Square. And she wants to have the best pizza in town. And Pizzeria La Bufala is going to do the boot scootin' sausage pizza, whatever, okay? Let's say she's got 2,000 followers. She's a member of Think Local First, so she offers me collaboration. Now she's got about 8,500 followers looking at it. But it's also Abbott Square. We're going to collaborate with Abbott Square. We're going to collaborate with Pizzeria La Bufala. And she's going to collaborate with downtown Santa Cruz. Now she's gone from having 2,000 people looking at it. She has potentially 45,000 people looking at that post. That is the power of collaboration. You're not going to do it if it doesn't apply to the people. Like you don't do goat belly burger, because they might be in Abbott Square, but they're not in that video. So if it's something that is really relevant to that video, that's where you want to think about doing collaboration. Okay? And I'm going to go out for a minute and just show you something. Start over. Okay, let's just take a look for a moment. I want to show you, I don't know if you guys saw this post, but this is one we did talking about the value of local, okay? I went in and offered Santa Cruz Boardroom collaboration. He doesn't necessarily accept collaboration. You know, sometimes he does, probably sometimes he doesn't. If he doesn't, it's no harm. It just stays there. He ignores it or he never saw it. So don't worry about with collaboration. It's not like it does anything weird to their account. I will tell you, though, when you start to look at this is where you kind of say, well, gosh, you look at your insights and you go, okay, 225 people like this. It was viewed by 8,200 people. But the beauty is when we start looking over here, these are the reshares and the remixes. So you had 40 people take that video and somehow get it out on theirs. That's how we have 8,100 or whatever views. It's that whole thing about, even though I didn't offer them collaboration on any of those, that's the way it got out there so far. So definitely, go ahead.
Really quick, Janet. When you ask for collaboration, can you also tag? Because if they don't accept the collaboration, you tag them anyways, or is it not?
You know what, it's almost redundant, because if they don't offer the collaboration, so let's say I do one for Sock Shop Santa Cruz and they don't want to collaborate on it, they will typically take that and go, oh, because they got the post, they got the message, and they'll reshare it as a story. So you could do it, but you're wasting your one of your 20 tags. You're allowed 20 tags.
This may be a sort of obscure question, but it just occurred, I often miss when people tag our account or
Okay,
post a collab.
let's look at that, because so when I said when I got onto Instagram, I sure didn't know what I was doing. My niece was living in Switzerland at the time. She set it up for me. She would do the post. I remember the first time someone answered back to me, I said, Christy, what do I do? She said, respond, you know? It was like, it's easy, but then you worry about like, what am I doing? And people will say, I tag you all the time, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. What you want to do on this account is right down here on the bottom left, this is your home. In other words, that's your feed when you see everyone else coming in. This right here says there's a message. So if I click on that, I know that I've got a message. Thank you. Invite, collaborate. Boy, you get an A in the class already. Here's Santa Cruz Rivas, honey. They're inviting collaboration. Ethos mentioned us in a story. Westside said thanks. Let's just look at one of those for a minute. Let's look for a moment at, this is what Revis gave us. All I have to do, review the request, accept it. I know it's good, so I'm not going to review it. So, but now what would happen is, if we go back, did you post this a couple days ago? Okay, so it's going to be a little further down. Everything is chronological, by the way. So I won't find it, but what it's done, was it a week ago or something? It's going to be buried down there a little bit. But you'll see that it's chronological. So in a perfect world, if he offered collaboration the first day, we would be right here with him. Okay? All right.
So could I ask the other end of that obscure question?
Yeah.
I went in, so I was like, how can I get a notification when somebody tags me? Because I'm not, like, I don't even necessarily go into Instagram every day, even though I know I should. You know, and so I went in, but now it's occurring to me that it would have to be my personal phone number, right? Because like, when I go into notifications, it sends me to Instagram, but it's probably looking at my personal Instagram account.
Well, you could set up notifications for whichever account you're on. Like, I just get notifications down here. If something has happened in Think Local First, that's it. And find someone that knows more about the computers and the notifications that I do. But you could set that up so I always have that. If I'm on, let's say I'm at Janet Romanowski, here, I've got 3 of them here. Okay, so this is where you're going to find those things. You can also, like on your home page, I've got 3 messages. So for whatever reason, the Janet Romanowski messages show up here. The other one, I've got a message, but I guess I cleared the other 2. That's why it didn't show up. Okay?
Can I also mention, I didn't realize for a long time, and it showed I had a message, but I didn't know where it was, but there's like 2 other, there's your main and there's general.
Yeah, let me show you what that is. That's a great question. Let's go to Think Local First for a minute. That's a really, really good question. So if I take a look at messages right there, okay, it's got something called primary, general, and requests. Requests are things that, like, maybe it's someone that doesn't follow you, you've done a story, and they're wanting to, like, react to it. It'll come up sometimes under requests, and you just approve, yeah, I'll accept things from them, they seem safe. Okay, general and primary. So on general, for example, oops, let me go back. Okay, general is, these are just people that I'll tell you how I use it. General is all the people that I would like to be members of Think Local First. So there's my list of people. Like yesterday I sent hospice something I think you guys should join. Plumbed Elegance, you know, they're moving, let's talk about that. So I use general as, those are like, what, your hot leads? I don't know what you would call them, but that's where I put those. If I go to primary, primary is like, these are just things coming in, the more normal things. But that's how I've used them. And it's kind of funny because you'd think primary would be the really important one, but it's not. And so if you have something, let's say someone, like when you guys will reach out to me and say, hey, would you come and film? I might turn around and put you in general because it's kind of like my, you know, my memory thing about, that's right, I said I was going to come out and film something for them. So that's what those categories are. We've got just a couple more minutes, so let me finish with going through how to gain followers. By the way, don't evaluate your success by followers and results. You know, not results, engagement. People get so obsessed with that. And I will tell you, like Tatiana, all I care about is, does she sell the black dress? You know, that's what she's looking at. If she gets obsessed about, I did that and I didn't get any new followers, she's got very loyal customers who love her stuff. And so if she's got them in the feed and they're seeing what's new, heck, all I care about is that she's got sales, okay? If you're always looking for followers, in our case, we look for followers because that helps you guys. It puts it out there further. But don't always make that your gauge. People get obsessed with that, you know, and really it's results driven. Are you having fun? Are people responding? And the engagement you get, is it really like, I love that dog, do you still have it available, whatever? Is it really engagement? Okay? In terms of liking and following, I want to suggest if you want to build up your followers, one of the things, and I'm going to do this quickly, but you'll get the idea of what it is. Right down here is your feed, okay? That's your feed of everything else coming in. I sit down every morning with a cup of coffee, and I will go through Big Basin. Oh, I'd love that. Don't tell them, I mean, now that we've recorded this. It's not like I don't want to read what you've got. I'm just looking at it going, this is good. Valentine's Day chocolate pairing. I probably don't need to read the whole thing. Redwood, you know, there's Second Harvest. Go through and spend 5 to 10 minutes a day. Why? Because if now we were over on Second Harvest and I was the most recent one to like it, I might get some free advertising which says Think Local First. So it's the way you can get free advertising. And if you're going to hope that other people engage with you, you're going to need to engage with them. So 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, just go through, like. You see something, comment, I love your whatever with chocolate wine, you know, whatever it is. So, all right, following and reposting, who do you follow? If you take a look at, and let me go back to the account. If you take a look at these numbers here, so that's our followers. This is who I'm following. When I first took over the account, we were following the, I don't know, the Coast Guard of Canada. We were following, you know, things that had nothing to do necessarily with Think Local First, but someone in the past, their nephew must have been with the Coast Guard or whatever. I would tell you, this number right here, if it's too big, this is what comes through on your feed. This is, like right now, there are potentially 2,297 accounts that I'm following. If that is too big, you may want to go in and get rid of some of those. And all you have to do is, you could go in with who you're following, and it will go through and it will say like message, you're just going to go through and you could say unfollow. And I know it's tempting, like someone buys the shirt, and in her case, let's say there's someone that they're not really a long-time customer, just someone that came in that all of a sudden follows her. She really doesn't know who they are. You might want to think about not following them. If you follow them, you're going to get the thing that's like, here was the barbecue in Stockton that we did on Sunday. It sort of starts to clog up your feed. So really look at who you follow. I would encourage, June, you should be following literally every musician in this town. Now, why do you follow them? Well, first of all, it's like, you know, you want them to be going, oh, that's right, I've heard about this person, I don't know who she is. The other is, again, you're asking people to engage. When they follow with you, you follow with them. They may call you about a gig, they may come to your gig, whatever it is. It's good, and I think with following too, it just, you know, sure, it'll build the numbers up, you know, you'll have more followers, but how about when you have a business down in Abbott Square? Do you follow every business in Abbott Square? And that way when Goat Belly Burger has a special, maybe it's one of those where you actually just throw that up as a story real quick. You're just promoting them. You're just helping them to bring more people. If they come down for that, they may say, I didn't know there was a pizza parlor here. So think about the businesses around you. Very good to be following them. The other is follow great accounts. Like when I did the Think Local First, I followed a couple of the accounts where like, these are people that can show me, you know, how to do this. And you'll also get great ideas. You know, if you've got a bakery, you know, if you're Companion Bake Shop, you know, you want to be following Gail's Bakery, but you may also want to be following whatever, Shotzi Bakery, I think it is, in Bishop, you know, the guy that's sold millions. You know, follow some of the big accounts so that you can see what they're doing and you'll get ideas. Okay? Also, post regularly. What that means is totally up to you. Post regularly for some people can mean once a week. If that's what you can do, that's great. And make it a heartfelt post when you do it, something you feel passionate about. If you could do it every day, that's great. I would rather see good posts over just like, oh, I had to do it today, so I put this up, and then, you know, it doesn't look that great. Okay? Also, on your business cards, on your emails, on your website, get those little icons for Facebook, Instagram. And by the way, with Instagram, I would hope all of you are cross-posting automatically over to Facebook. There's a setting that you just say, do this. And so when we put it up on Think Local First on Instagram, it's on Facebook. So, you know, a good way to have it so you're not duplicating what you're doing. Also, within your shop, if you go into Tatiana's shop, on the wall, there's a thing that says, you know, connect with us. And it's got the icon, you know, and I told her, put it.
Q code.
It's got a QR code. Put it in the dressing room when they're dressing. Tell people that you're on Instagram. Tell people you're on social media. That's how you're going to get your followers too. Okay? How do you work with Think Local First? What I want to suggest, and then we're almost done. What I told you about, every morning I sit down and I go through for 5-10 minutes and I just look at posts. You'll typically see the stories that we do. I'll have 20 of them up there. It's easy if, for example, you tag me on something, makes my job very easy because I could just sit there. It's like, oh, I got a message. Sure, I'll share that as a story. I'll share that as a story. If I have to go out looking for you because I haven't seen you posting recently, it just makes it a little bit harder. So when you do a post, think about it probably once to twice a week. I'll be happy to share the stories, and it just really depends on how many people are posting and doing things. But once or twice a week, we can usually get you up as a story. Collaborations, about every 4 to 6 weeks. So think about it when you got something big coming up. Chunks has an anniversary coming up. Let's do a collaboration because that's a big one he wants publicity for. So think about that, and again, about every 4 to 6 weeks. That's it. Is everyone loving Instagram? Do we have anyone that doesn't love it at this point?
I